Thank you, Mr. Chair. So good evening, honourable members. Thank you for inviting me here today to discuss the experiences of female and women veterans. As the first woman CAF veteran appointed to the Senate, I appear before you as a fellow parliamentarian, but as a veteran myself, having fully retired in January of 2023. I enrolled in the Canadian Armed Forces in January of 1989, and this was the same month that women started integration into all occupations except submarines. I personally experienced great advances for women since '89. For example, I'm the first person with a military nursing background to lead at the rank of Flag Officer, Rear Admiral, which was previously unheard of when I joined. What has been slower to adapt is who we recognize as female and women veterans and the support we provide to them. Veterans are traditionally portrayed as white, older men who are war fighters, resulting in women being less likely to identify and then be recognized as veterans who need service. This results in veteran services that are not tailored for sex and gender-specific issues. Prior to my appointment at the Senate, I've served in many different military domains. My experience is diverse and includes addressing sexual misconduct and culture change in the CAF, as well as leading military health care at the height of the pandemic and through the establishment of the Women's Health Program. I was also the Defence Champion for Women and facilitated the establishment of the Defence Team Pride Network, for which I was the interim champion. I understand the people who serve. Women are one of the fastest growing segments of military veterans in Canada, and the systems of support for women and veterans were designed based on the male experience. This stems from research focusing on male veterans while being presented as gender neutral. We have learned in healthcare that gender neutral excludes women. While I don't deny we share common experiences, more research is needed on the different sex and gender-specific health and well-being requirements. And I want to state clearly, you cannot address female and women's health without addressing their health while serving in the Canadian Armed Forces or as members of the RCMP. What does this mean? Ideally, we prevent harm to women in the first place, so they don't need to seek veteran services from back. It's about the continuity between active service and the support they receive for service-related injuries and illnesses. Women veterans' health is occupational health related. It sits on a continuum between an initial event during service and their current well-being as a veteran. This remains true whether the disability presents itself immediately or in the future, and we absolutely cannot ignore this reality. To improve transition and integration into post-service life and potentially prevent injury to current CAF members, information exchange between CAF and VAC is essential. By routinely sharing data such as injury and illness patterns and trends, we can better understand the impact of military service on women and better prepare for services veterans will require and fund them. Veterans are not a homogeneous group. They are an intersection of identities that influence experiences and expectations for the supports they seek and need post-service. Therefore, I would also caution not to conflate female and women veteran service requirements along with those of other equity-seeking groups. We cannot lump together all those with diverse needs into one program or one funding group without inevitably failing to address key areas that are unique to each specific group. All groups should be considered individually, though harmoniously, so we can ensure equity and ultimately better lived experiences for those who have sustained harm in service of our country. My final point I would like to raise before questions. The ideal outcome is equitable and fair support for CAF and RCMP members and veterans. The CAF is modernizing and changing, which means our veterans' needs are changing as well. VAC's mandate to support the well-being of veterans and their families and to promote remembrance of achievements shouldn't be seen as a barrier to doing things differently. We must be proactive in anticipating veteran needs and not reactive, as is unfortunately so often the case. So for Canadians who are willing to give their all in service of the country, we deserve better. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.